Hello and welcome back to another episode of Game Hammer Live, where we're still completing our look through the entire PlayStation 2 library. Let's get straight into it. Khan Barbarians Blade, or Khan Barbarians Blade if you're a Star Trek fan, is a game that I have next to no memory of, I have to admit, but it has been in my collection for years. It has a look and feel that's not unlike Maximo, a game that I really do like, but nevertheless it's still one of those that just slips my mind. It's a 3D action-adventure game with a lot of brawler aspects to it, and it seems decent enough, so I'll have to go back and play it again sometime. Well, if I remember to do that, that is. Cow the Kangaroo Round 2. Hey, that rhymes. It's a pretty decent mascot platformer when all's considered. It's bright, it's well animated, it's fun to play, but it's not very long. Don't expect a long, challenging game, because this is really set for kids. I've seen long plays of it that complete the game in barely over 2.5 hours, so it's not a big one. If you've got a little time to spare and you're decent at games, you could probably get through the whole thing. Karaoke Stage is a singing game, but with a bit of a difference. While SingStar is pretty much the pinnacle of the PS2 era singing games, this one has more of a dancing stage spin to it. It's decent enough, and if you can't sing like me, you'll get quickly tired of everyone around you telling you to stop playing, but if you enjoy singing games, I think you'll like this one. Karaoke Stage 2 is the inevitable sequel. It's more of the same. Essentially, it's just the first game over again with different songs. Now, that's not a bad thing. When you're talking about karaoke games, that's actually a pretty good one, because if you're into singing games, you want a large number of options for your karaoke evenings with more songs, then yeah, that's the way to go. Kelly Slater's Pro Surfer is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, only set on water. It's a lot of fun if you're into that extreme sports simulator genre where it's a little bit wacky, and the soundtrack's pretty good as well. I do actually like this one a fair bit, but I'll admit, when I'm going for this kind of game, I do tend to go back to Tony Hawk 3 more than any other one, because that game just pips this one in the fun factor. Kengo, Master of Bushido, is a boring fighting game. I'm sorry, it's dull. It's one of those where you duel with Japanese weapons in a one-on-one style, and if you're into that, that's great. But I'm not really one of those that's into the more realistic one-on-one fighting games where you have to master the moves and the blocks and all of that, where it's all slow, it's all precise, and there's a very set way of doing things. I like to tap a few buttons, jump around the screen, make something explode and things like that. If you're like me, then you'll want to wait for later in this video, but if you like that kind of game, Kengo may be the one to go for. Now, Kessen is an interesting one. From its packaging, it looks like it's going to be a Dynasty Warriors style game, but if you bought it for that, you're going to be a little bit confused and also disappointed, because this is a real-time strategy. Specifically, it's a console version of the Total War series, with a few extra bits from Dynasty Warriors thrown in. I love the Total War series. I love the Dynasty War series. They're both amazing, so I actually kind of like Kessen as well. But Kessen 2? That's a bit weird. It's trying to be a bit more on the Dynasty Warriors side than the original game was, and to be honest with you, it's not managing it. It hasn't got that kind of fast-paced Dynasty Warriors style to it, and as a result, it kind of falls a bit flat. Samurai Warriors did that better. It did the big battle action sequences better, and the original Kessen did the tactical side better, so this one ends up not as good as either. Okay, Kiddies Party Pack. This is a complete travesty. It should not exist on the PlayStation 2. I cannot stress enough how much this is a game in name only, and it shouldn't be here. It's yet another one of those Phoenix Games discs, but instead of containing one of those really, really bad Eastern European videos, where they've essentially just digitized something off a VHS that's been copied and copied and copied, and it's awful, this is just the games from a load of those. Well, I say games. It's the colouring books, the jigsaw puzzles and things like that. It's all of that from a load of those discs shoved into one disc as a kind of collection of the worst things that you could possibly play on PlayStation 2. I don't know how they thought this was going to sell. Don't buy it, it's bad. Kids Sports Basketball is a passable basketball game to a certain extent. I prefer to be playing NBA Jam. And I think when you play this, you'll prefer to be playing NBA Jam as well. The graphics, yeah, they're acceptable if you're not planning to look at the screen, but I would definitely turn the music down because it's atrocious. Play it if you desperately want to play a basketball game and don't have a copy of literally anything else to hand. On the other hand, kids' sports ice hockey isn't quite as bad. It's about the same level of quality as the basketball game that we just looked at in terms of graphics and music, but yeah, you can actually play a game of hockey on this one. I'd still take EA Sports Hockey over this one any day. Killer 7, this one's indescribable. Okay, this, how am I supposed to say this? This is a game about one assassin who's 7 assassins, who's one assassin, who's a different assassin. Something like that. It's hard to describe. This game has to be seen to be believed. It's like, so if David Lynch decided to make a game, he'd probably be Suda 5-1, and Suda 5-1 made this. It's just weird. It's just seriously messed up weird in the brain. It's odd. It's one of those games that just has to be experienced. At its heart, it's a brawler, and it's more than that, and also less than that as well. It's guaranteed to be on the list of the Game Hammer Live full playthroughs, I'll put it that way. Killswitch is a third-person shooter that you'll either like or get quickly frustrated with. It's like a Marmite game. It's far from the worst on the system, it's also far from the best. Give it a try if you get the chance, but don't expect too much from it, and then you won't be disappointed. It's average. What isn't average is King Arthur, the truth behind the legend. This is a true hidden gem on PlayStation 2. I cannot stress that enough. This is basically, let's have King Arthur and do him in the Lord of the Rings games from EA. I am not kidding you. If you get the chance to play this one, take that chance because it is a hell of a lot of fun. If you're a big fan of the Lord of the Rings games like I am, then you will love this one because I certainly did. Kingdom Hearts is a Japanese role-playing game starring Walt Disney characters and some people that would fit right in Final Fantasy, and I absolutely love it. It's another of those games that most people will definitely have already heard of or even played. It's a lot of fun, and I'll definitely have it on the list for a Game Hammer Live complete play one of these days. Same thing with Kingdom Hearts 2. More of the same, only, weirdly enough, it's a bit weirder than the original, if that can be believed, because it certainly goes more in on the weirdness of what the storyline is. Again, it's one of those games you've probably already heard of. You'll probably already have either played it, seen someone who's played it, or heard about someone who's played it. And again, it's added to a long list of games that will be completed on Game Hammer Live. Killzone was a pretty big deal when it was first released, and I can see why. It's a rather good first-person shooter, and I enjoyed what I played of it, but I will freely admit it's yet another of those in the library that I've never actually completed. It's just one of those things, when you get a big library like this, you sit down to play for a bit, and then something else comes along. Sorry, we will get through it though. The King of Clubs is a, well, how can I put this? It's a terrible golf game by a budget developer, and that's just the long and short of it. It's just that bad. It's bad. Don't bother. Play Tiger Woods instead. Those games are decent. This one is ridiculous. So, now we've got the full King of Fighters set. Or at least, I think it's the full King of Fighters set. There's always one that hides, isn't there? I've got a lot of these, so I'm going to just show you the covers while I talk about them as a group. They really are great fun. I love these games. I absolutely adore playing these games. There's style, there's action. It's great. The controls are decent. I really love it. But here's one of the things that you have to know about it. You don't need the complete set unless you're going for a complete PlayStation 2 set. Pick one of them and you will have a lot of fun. From my point of view, when I want to play one of these games, I just pick one at random and then play that. Because they all play essentially the same. You know what you're getting with a King of Fighters game, let's put it that way. They're all really good, really polished, I love them, but you know what you're getting, so get whichever one you remember from your favourite arcade days, or whichever one you can get a chance to grab hold of, because you will not have a bad time with any of these. They're a lot of fun. Kingsfield IV is a damn hard game. It's by From Software, so you know what you're getting into right from the start, but it's also the last in the series, so if you're hoping to get a complete idea of what's going on from start to finish, maybe coming in at the end isn't exactly what you need to do. I can't really explain what the game is about because I've hardly had the time to fully get into it yet, but I can tell you what happened the first time I played it, because it's just ridiculous. I opened a door, found myself in a giant tower where staircases wound their way around the outside, the outer wall of it. Not the outside of it, but the inside outer wall. So I was following that for a bit, and then I took a wrong step, fell hundreds of feet, landed, didn't die, strangely enough, found a weapons shop at the bottom of the stairs full of stuff that I couldn't afford. So I think I went the wrong way. Fantastic experience. Would definitely play again. I still have no idea what was going on. The King of Route 66 is the sequel to 18-wheeler American Pro Trucker, and I have to say I love it. I don't love it quite as much as 18-wheeler, but then again, there's nothing quite like 18-wheeler. Even its sequel isn't quite like 18-wheeler. But I will recommend one thing. If you play this, play it with a steering wheel controller because it increases how much fun you'll have. It's great. It's pure arcade joy. Klonoa 2 Lunatea's Veil is a 2.5D side-scrolling platform game, and it's absolutely wonderful to play. This is one of those classic games that you just have to give a try, and it's really well worth your time. I don't think it's a very long game, and it's not really the hardest I've ever played, but it is really enjoyable. Knights of the Temple Infernal Crusade is a brawler that reminds me a lot of the Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance games, or maybe that weird Bard's Tale PS2 game that tried to be Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, but I could never get to grips with that one. It's a pretty decent game, and arguably it's another hidden gem. Knight Rider, and its kinda sequel Knight Rider 2 the game, which kinda suggests that the first one wasn't the game. Is that what it's saying? Because I agree, it was terrible. They're very, very low-budget action-driving games that are trying to do too much with what they have available. And this is from a low-budget developer. You're not going to get massive amounts of polish. I knew that going in. But when you play the second game and you realise that at one point it's trying to mix Driver, the old Driver games, with Splinter Cell, then you realise why it's such a mess. Avoid both of these unless you need to get bored and frustrated in record time. Knockout Kings 2001 and its inevitable sequel, Knockout Kings 2002, are both actually rather good boxing games. I like both of them, but even though I'm not the biggest fan of boxing, I enjoyed the game. It was fun to play. Nevertheless, I'd have liked to have seen where the game series was going and kind of wanted it to not die out, but it did. And it's a shame, because there's only these 2 entries on the PS2. There is another one, it's on GameCube only. And then all of a sudden the series just disappeared, and Fight Night turned up in its place. Kung Fu Panda is a game that I forgot even arrived on the PS2, and with good reason. It's another 3D action platformer aimed at kids, and it has a runtime of under 3 hours. If you're decent at it, you can get through it in maybe 2.5 to 3/4 hours. Definitely one we could probably play through in a night on Game Hammer Live. It's not great, but I've definitely played worse. Curry Curry Mix has to be played to be believed. I am not kidding you. It's a weird game that is best described as a single-player simultaneous co-op. Yes, you heard that right. You control the 2 characters with the 2 sides of the controller. So one analog stick for one analog stick for the other, and buttons to make them move. It's weird. Trying to get your head around it is the biggest challenge of the game. I would have put this game on the list of Game Hammer Live full playthroughs, but I have a feeling that I'd get so overwhelmingly frustrated with it, or, and this is the weird thing to say, probably travel sick trying to cock my eyes in 2 different directions, that in the end I'd probably end up risking eating the controller. Kia Dark Lineage is our final game for today, and it's another 3D mascot platformer. I quite like this one, but it's not talked about a lot these days, which is a bit odd. Personally, I'd say it's in the running for hidden gem status, so that's the 3rd in this video, because it's definitely worth playing, but there are so many of this kind of game on the PS2 that you might disagree because you might think there are better options out there. Nevertheless, if you get a chance to play it, give it a try, because I actually found it quite fun. So there you go, another look at another part of the library. I hope you have enjoyed that, and if you have, remember to click that like button, share it with your friends so they know some good games when they see them, and do subscribe for future videos because there will be more in the future. But until next time, I've been Zoe Kirk Robinson, you've been watching Game Hammer Extra. I'll see you later. If you like the show, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It really does help create future videos. That's patreon.com/Zoe Kirk Robinson. And I've got an extra special thanks going out to Chief89, Sam Yates, Retro Mickey82, Mo Henry, and George Botterini. Thank you so much, guys.